What is up, everyone? Today we're going to be looking at what's going on in my first 50 drafts. Now, truly, it's only my first 48 because if you've been watching my other videos, you know that two of them got canceled. So 50 minus two, 48 drafts to look at. We're not going to look at all 48. We're going to look at two of them. And before we dive into those two drafts, though, we're going to look at my highest owned players within the top 127 picks, my lowest owned players within the top 120 or so picks as well, and then my highest owned players that aren't on this list. Like, and most of those are going to be players that are much later in the draft. So first off, on the far left, we have my lowest owned players, and wanted to talk through some of this, not a whole lot of it, but some of it. Uh, I'm not surprised to see some of these players at the very top, especially like Saquon, Jahmyr Gibbs, Derrick Henry. Reason why and then actually even Jonathan Taylor as well. Reason why I'm not surprised to see these players on my low owned list is because I've got the number one pick over and over and over again, as you can see with my Ja'Marr Chase exposure so far. But I've gotten the number two and three pick one time each, and the four pick only a handful of times. So basically, I'm living in the number one pick or the number five and beyond pick, which means that I'm not getting much of the Saquon, Jahmyr Gibbs, um, and then even Bijan Robinson, but I've gotten him once or twice, or at least twice, I guess, or something like that, or three times. But I'm not getting much in this tier here. And that's why I have such low ownership of these players. And then also, Jonathan Taylor usually goes in that same area in the second round. So I don't have a whole lot of him either. Uh, that should even out over time. Hopefully, it does a little bit. I don't want to really be overweight on these players, but I would rather be 6%, 7% probably, maybe 8%, whatever. But 2% is a little too low, especially for Saquon Gibbs and Achane as well, and Taylor. Henry, probably keep him in the 2 to 4%. You can see I got him once when he fell really late. That's the only time I've gotten him so far. And we'll see if I get him again or not. But he goes rather early right now in the first round. So he hasn't fallen to me where I felt comfortable taking him a second time yet. So we'll see what happens there with Henry, but I'm comfortable fading him for the most part. The players that I'm probably least comfortable fading of this entire group would be, um, and I'm not really fading them, but just based on my ownership right now, would probably be someone like a Cook, a Brown, uh, maybe a Chuba also. I don't think there's a lot here that's really going to hurt me because I don't have a lot of it. Now, of course, you might need any one of these players to win, but I'd say some of these second tier running backs, Cook, Brown, Chubb, are players that I wouldn't mind having a little bit more exposure to. It's kind of hard to take them with some of the wide receivers that are available around that same time. And so I haven't gotten a whole lot of them, as you can see. I've also, the other players, if there's other ones that I'm a little bit nervous about, would be, I guess, the quarterbacks, just because it's such low ownership. I haven't drafted Bo Nix once yet. I need to change that. And then I've only gotten Herbert, I think, twice here, and Dak Prescott only one time also. I don't have a whole lot of CD, but I can't seem to push Dak Prescott around the bend and get him correlated with CD one round later. And there's usually a player there that I want to take instead of Dak, and so I just don't get Dak, which is unfortunate, but it happens. Um, so that's what's going on with my lowest owned players. And overall, I feel pretty comfortable with it. Joe Burrow, wouldn't mind getting more of him, considering I have 18% Ja'Marr Chase. It's just that Joe Burrow always goes in the third round. You've only come back to me one time when I've had Ja'Marr Chase or T. Higgins. So it just isn't going to happen. So there we go. And I'll take Josh and Jaden and Lamar. I've taken them all two times each, it looks like. And I think I want to mix them in just so I have a little bit of them, but they go so early on DraftKings that it's hard to feel confident to take them over and over and over again. But I think a video on Jaden Daniels might be necessary as well. So stay tuned for that. We'll see if that happens. As far as my players that I'm overweight, rather significantly, here's the ones that have the highest draft capital. Again, Ja'Marr Chase is just because I've gotten the number one so many times, and I just keep on taking him. I assume that eventually it's going to even out, right? And then this ownership's going to plummet as the other ones go up. Now, the funny thing was when I did have the second pick the one time, I was like essentially just crossing my fingers, please take Ja'Marr Chase so that I can get Saquon in the number two pick. And luckily it happened. So I didn't want any more Ja'Marr Chase. 18% is a ton of him with the first pick in the draft. So I'm hoping this just naturally goes down. I'm afraid to not take him with the first pick because what happens if you just never get more first round picks and all of a sudden you're underweight Ja'Marr Chase, or the time that you don't take him is the time that Joe Burrow makes it around to the third round or something like that. Ideally the fifth round, but that's not going to happen at all. So, yeah, I just keep on taking them because I'm stuck in the back half of the first round for the rest of the time. I keep on getting Amon-Ra, Nico, as my players here, and let's see if I have any other. And yeah, those are the two that I'm significantly overweight on, and I'm pretty sure I'm overweight on the other ones as well, as far as um, not CD, but I think I'm overweight on Malik Neighbors a little bit. I think I'm equal weight on the other ones or something like that. So overall overweight on the back half. If there's anyone here that I'm excited about being overweight on, I think it's probably Trey McBride is one of the early ones, just because in the third round, in the beginning of the third round, there's not a lot of stuff that's exciting to me. It's almost like when I take someone, just taking the player because I have to pick a player, not because I'm really excited to take that player. And so if Trey McBride as a tight end can do the same thing as the wide receivers, I think that's a huge advantage. It also sets you up for a two tight end build, which I think is not being utilized enough. I think I'm doing it a good amount, and who knows? Either I'm doing it the right amount or way too much, probably. Um, Excited about some of the other players that could rise. So, for example, Ashton Jeanty, you can see I'm averaging 16.43 here. And does he end up in the first round after the draft? If he does, I've got good closing line value on Ashton Jeanty. I also had a decent amount of CMC, and I'm kind of nervous about it, of course, but also kind of excited about it. Unfortunately, two of those drafts got canceled, so now my exposure is a little bit more in line with the field on him. The other players I'm excited to be a little overweight on right now would be Omarion Hampton for the same reason as Ashton Jeanty. So I guess some of these rookies, I guess is what I'm going to say overall. Uh, Olave is one of those players where why is he going so late? It's because of the concussions, and I guess his quarterback's having some issues now, so that's a little bit concerning. So might have to reevaluate that again. But I do think someone with his talent this late, is this one of those just guaranteed? It's one of those things where if he does awesome, you're kind of kicking yourself afterwards. I did go heavy on Tet to begin, and he's just kind of fallen. And so that was maybe a mistake to go heavy on him early, or at least kind of a decent amount early. I haven't drafted him a whole ton since. Uh, have more of the other rookies here. Not super excited about these other ones, but it's okay. It is what it is. I get him when he falls, and he's fallen a decent amount for me. Same thing with Calvin Ridley. He seems to fall into the mid to late 80s and maybe even early 90s every once in a while, and that's when I seem to take him, and it happens, like I said, every once in a while, if not more. And I have paired, I think, Calvin with his hopefully QB and Cam Ward a number of times, I think. And TJ Hawkinson is another one that I've taken a decent amount of just because of the players he's around. I think I've had the choice of like Jaden Reed or TJ Hawkinson, and the TJ Hawkinson pick just seems a lot more fun. Anything else? And then I guess the other one I'm excited about here a little bit just because of what it could mean. And I guess I'm excited because of the value that these players are potentially bringing compared to the other, huge site for best ball and underdog. Amika, Luther Burden, and Golden are all going much earlier on underdog. And so when they're here at 95, when they're here in the 100s. And then I do have a decent amount of golden too, just not as much as these two. I think I'm more in line with the field, I guess, with golden. So maybe you bring that up just a tad. You can do that in a draft or two, so it's not that bad. Um, but hopefully these are smash picks here. At least one or two of them are, and then they make your wide receiver field that much better. Now, one thing that I'm thinking as I look at this is, should I be drafting another running back early to then pair with this and try to take more advantage of this? Maybe I should be trying to be just slightly more in line with the field here as as I get these players. It's been hard a little bit again because I can't get some of these top end running backs. Um, and then that's the rest. So those ones I'm excited about. Anyone I'm nervous about as far as having a lot of, I guess if there's anyone I'm nervous about having a lot of, it would probably be someone like um, Jayden Reed or Judkins or Rome. They're or the 49ers guys as well, maybe. Um, I think there's just some things there that are potentially a little scary. Just Rome didn't have that good of a year last year. Does he bounce back? You hope he does. You hope he has like a JSN arc and has an awesome year this year, but you don't know, and you're investing a good amount of capital in that. The 49ers guys, who knows what's going on with the 49ers? Are they going to do good this year, have the offense you expect, or is it all going to implode? Uh, the running backs after the first two don't have the like that guaranteed role off the bat that the first two are kind of expected to get. And so it's very much landing spot dependent. Who knows if they'll get the right landing spot or not? And so you're kind of drafting it, hoping, and the room has let me draft him at past ADP. So I guess I'm just doing it. And then someone like Jayden Reed started off so good and then has did so poorly the last 80% of the season or something like that. Okay, let's go on to the players that I have the most exposure to that are later on in the draft. And as you'd kind of expect, because I've missed out on a lot of the running backs early on and rather heavy overall with other positions, I am going rather heavy on running backs here. And I do, as I'm looking at the ones that I'm heavy on, I guess overall feel pretty good about it. I was really heavy on Tyjae Spears to start. I didn't really think that Tennessee was going to invest in another running back. Been some talk of it, so that gets me a little nervous. Investing in Isaiah, these first two, I guess, are the ones that make me the most nervous. So I'll answer that question too, just because I'm over 20% on them, and uh, there's a chance that both teams maybe draft another running back, and is that running back taking over their spot as the number two on the team or not is the question. So those two, I think I'm the most nervous on. Actually, some of this one too, Tank Bigsby, maybe the same thing as well. They're talking about things there. That being said, listening to how the head coach runs things and what he likes, I think there's a reason to be excited about can Tank expand his role also. And so if there's one thing, even though we're nervous with these ones, I think they're not bad ones to draft because um, as we learned from last year, you want to lean into that uncertainty when it makes sense because that uncertainty can go either way, either the upside or downside. And so you don't want to be so safe that you end up with a bunch of blah teams. You want some of these players to hopefully hit at least one or two of them, and then all of a sudden you have some pretty stud teams with your low invested capital guys. These if we Cam Ward, he's going in the 150s. I got him on average in the 160s. And if he has a season like Bo Nix, you are super happy with that. So that's what you're hoping for there. And when you push quarterback and you end up with a decent amount of where is he? A decent amount of Calvin Ridley, it kind of makes sense. And then a decent amount of Tyjae Spears too, right? So you're doing some pairing there. Jalen Royals, that's hitting hard to begin with, but he seems to be kind of going down a little bit. So I think I probably need to let that one settle some. Jalen Knoll, he's been going the other way and getting drafted higher overall. So I'm happy to have a good amount of him. And Higgins has partner in college. Damian Martinez is getting a lot of buzz. And so a lot of these running backs here are going to be either the expected to get a good amount of draft capital and have the talent, the Raz, or just like have a talent for a spot, combined with the second year players that hopefully have a chance as well. So rookie, we're going to look at the running backs here. Rookie, second year player, rookie, not second year player, but new head coach, second year player, second year player, second year player, second year player, rookie, uh, new landing spot, rookie, just solid overall. So you can see kind of what I'm doing here with these running backs. I'm leaning into the uncertainty and hoping that those second year players that didn't have the breakout that was expected, that their huge fall in ADP is not as justified as people think. And then they end up being good values. And then you're hoping some of these running backs hit. And then you can see I got some of the wide receivers that are less expensive on DraftKings. So someone like Jalen Noel, Jaden Higgins, Trey Harris has probably been a little bit of a mistake. He's kind of falling. Um, it's okay though. And then if we go down, who else do we have? Any other ones? We got Harold Fannin. Basically, he's a wide receiver. And Romeo's on here. It's because I got a decent amount of Jordan Love. And so I got some Romeo. Also, he's a good bailout pick if you do go heavy running back to start. He's kind of a safe pick for the most part. And then Dante, the other Packer as well. So Romeo and Dontavian to go with Jordan Love. I think I had one of my Green Bay teams canceled, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember, but I think it was one of them. So these would have been higher maybe if it didn't get canceled. So my most nervous ones are probably the ones that I have the most capital invested in that are drafted even a little bit earlier on this list right here. So your Tajay Spears, Isaac Guerendo, um, players would be the ones I'm most nervous. Tank Bigsby would be the ones I'm most nervous about. They could also pay off the most. Ones I'm most excited about on this list are probably they're a bunch of rookies, so it's hard to say. I'll go with a couple that maybe are less expected on here. I think most people would say some of these players over here. I'm going to go and say some of the ones that are probably the biggest value potentially compared to where they were drafted last year. So someone like Wicks, someone like um, one of these guys over here, if the spot opens up, do they? I don't know. I'd say Dontavian Wicks is the one I'm most excited about. Does he open up his spot here? Not saying I need to draft him a whole ton. Also, I say all the Green Bay guys. I got Marshawn Lloyd here as well as a second year player. Um, do they keep on feeding it to Jacobs the way they were, or does Lloyd and his stud athletic profile get a good amount of carry this year? I think there's a chance that he gets a good amount because they did let other guys run it, and can Lloyd take over that spot? And then Wicks, and does the whole just Packers offense pick up the pace compared to last year? So I don't know if there's really a good answer here. I think there's the easy outs and the ones that don't make as much sense. So I'm going with the ones that don't make as much sense, and Wicks and Lloyd. And then I'm also going to say Benson just because Connor is on the older side. He's even though he's healthy for basically all of last year until the very end, there's concerns there too. So there's my three. Let's look at two drafts here. The first draft we're going to look at is one that I have a bunch of my high-owned players in it. We got Trey McBride. We have Igbukah, Zach Charbonnet, who is I think on my high-end list, Tajay Spears, Cam Ward, Isaac Guerendo, DJ Giddens, Lloyd. So we got a bunch of my high drafted players on this one here. We ended up with a 2882, which is a unique build, I think, overall, but one that I've run into on multiple occasions. And this is an interesting team. It's like a super fragile team. It's probably not going to hit, but if it does, it could hit in a way that other teams aren't. So I don't think I want to build all my teams like this, but if I have a couple like this, it could work out. What I got going on here essentially is a lot of high-end wide receivers up top, along with number two tight end in McBride. I then got my first quarterback in Mahomes, and I packaged that with Rice and Kelsey on either side. I then have after my four wide receivers, I then have two rookies. If Rice starts out the season strong, then these two rookies might be okay. If Rice doesn't start the season out strong, then this might be dangerous to have the two rookies here. That being said, I do have three wide receivers in the first four picks, so maybe I can get away with it. These are good ADPs, especially compared to like underdog. We got Hollywood Brown to go in our Chiefs thing. And what I want to highlight here too is that Charbonnet is my first running back on this team at 117, which is super crazy overall. Uh, that being said, the interesting thing is that there is another team right here that took Barkley at number one and then didn't take another running back until White in the 13th round. That being said, it feels so much more cozy when you have Barkley to start as opposed to what I did with just Charbonnet as my number one. What did I do at running back? That's why I got eight of them because I started out so late and I got the most running backs easily. No one else drafted. One person drafted, or two people drafted seven, but the rest were six or less. So I got Charbonnet, Spears, Guerendo, Neal, Giddens, Mitchell, Lloyd, and Edwards. So what we're hoping here is that somehow we ping pong decent weeks across some of our, in air quotes, veterans in Charbonnet, Spears, Guerendo, and maybe even Mitchell has a role and Lloyd. So you're just hoping that they do something to start. And then you're hoping that one of these running backs ends up getting a good role as well, either Neal or Giddens most likely. And then we have Edwards here at the end of the draft on this team who's maybe like a dark or horse to do something. Uh, Super risky team, like I was saying. The other interesting thing that makes this one risky is that I got Mahomes and Ward as my only two QBs. So essentially, I'm hoping that Mahomes starts the season out strong, and then Ward comes in partway through and proves that there's a reason why we're drafting where we're drafting and why he was the first pick. And this becomes a much stronger wide receiver or QB room than what people would expect. And I think if this, these are a lot of ifs, but if this QB room proves to be much more than you expect, and my top wide receivers, um, outpace everyone else and are the kind of the studs of my team, along with my tight end ideal strength here, I might be able to get away with it at the beginning of the season, waiting for some of these other players to pick up the pace some and help carry me through to the playoffs. Not a guarantee to make it. Overall, probably I wouldn't put money on this team overall to make it because of how risky it is. But I do think it's a fun build. So there we have it. Flame this one. Tell me how bad it is, and I think it's very easy to. Or tell me how good it is. I think it's much harder to do that. The team that was the closest, we had a couple sevens, so it's probably one of those. Here's a 2-7-8-3. They went wide or QB early, even earlier than I did. They also went pretty heavy at wide receiver. But what they did differently was they actually took some running backs in there, and that's why they only have eight wide receivers instead of that's why they only have seven running backs instead of the eight that I have, because they got Genty and Warren. Warren's always a safe pick around here. People are doing that. ETN, Ford, which is a great pick right there at 154. Sampson, Martinez, those are two, and then Shipley. So they ended up, I like their team overall. They ended up with a really nice running back room for the little bit of capital they invested in it comparative to some other teams. They have a good wide receiver room overall. Like they got a good amount in there, especially someone like Waddle. I know people are concerned about him, or Ridley. People are concerned about him, but I think those are interesting picks for bounce backs right there. And Odunze, like I said, for bounce back also in a way. Burden late took my Kincaid. Or no, this isn't this one, so never mind. He didn't take my Kincaid. Um, did he stack his stuff? Hurts is hard to stack. Uh, he did not stack. So it's a naked Hurts, which isn't the worst. Oh no, Shipley stacked it with a running back, which yeah, I like taking Shipley there if I have Hurts. So it is what it is. And then he's got Lawrence, who he had the Brian Thomas up top, and then he also had Etienne at a good pick at 106 overall. I think that's around ADP or maybe slightly there's around ADP. So overall, really good here with his team. I don't think there's really much for him to change at all on anything. Good with his tight ends. He's got two in the middle. And I think when people are taking two like this, just because you don't know what's going to go on with these two, they're, I don't know, maybe not as safe as people are hoping they are. A lot of people are taking a third one still. And so we did that with Arroyo. Last but not least, on my team, if there's one thing I change on mine, it would be this pick right here. I know he stacks with Mahomes, and I don't draft much Mahomes or Kelsey. As you saw, he's my lowest owned player, so that's why I did this. But really, I probably should have thought I don't have a running back yet. I can get Jones at around ADP, maybe even slightly after ADP, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just take Jones right here. He pairs also with Jefferson in case I get like a JJ McCarthy thing going on with this one. And it gives me one running back to help me through the beginning of the season at the very least. Now, of course, I got and then Kelsey sometimes can come back around, and of course, then I miss out on Hunter or Ibuka, but I think that would be ideal right there if I didn't go Kelsey in this one. I think it was just too like, hey, I get to stack, so let's stack because I can, as opposed to should I truly do it or not. In this case, I don't think I truly should have done it. But I made the best of it with what I got. Okay, now let's look at one with a bunch of low-owned players on it. It's actually another. Are they both Jefferson starts? Okay, so you saw these are. That's funny. Again, I only have one, two, one, three, and a couple fours. And here's our tier two, my number fours. On this one, some of my low on players. I'm actually below market on Jefferson by just a little bit, I believe. Definitely below on Allen, like we were saying. I'm was I below on Flowers? I think I was below on Flowers. Let's take a look really quick and confirm that. Um, Yep, below on Flowers, below on Kamara. I've only drafted once. Below on Shakir. There's Golden on this team. I'm kind of at market with him basically. Below on Allen. Below on. Am I below on Davis too? I think I might be. I don't think I've gotten much of him, which yeah, just slightly below on Davis. And then I only drafted Moore one time, so below on him, but that's kind of expected. I don't know who's really going after out of the way to draft him. So this is more traditional, a little bit 2-6-9-3. The most traditional is 3-6-8-3. So we're kind of around there. I don't take much Allen. I took him here just because, like I told you, around this time, there's nothing that I really like. And so I took Allen in the second round. I probably would have taken McBride here in the third, but Bucky Irving made it all the way back to pick number 28, which is his ADP is like 24, 23, 24, 25. And actually, that's one player I'm surprised I'm over owned on is Bucky Irving. I didn't think that would happen, but I am so far. So I got Bucky here. And then Kamara fell past ADP as well. And I never see him fall past ADP. I don't think I've ever seen him, except for this one time, go past like pick number 50. So I'm probably wrong on that, but at least not when I'm around here has he gone this far. So I was like, okay, it's not that far past ADP, but I have 0% of them. He kind of fits with my build still because I only have one running back so far. So I end up with two. And then, matter of fact, Judkins fell. I'm not overweight on him, but he fell. And this, I think, is past ADP also. Um, it's actually just at ADP. Got him at ADP here, which I think is fine on a team. again, you're either taking him or you're taking a bunch of players that, um, they might do something, you never know. And so I think it's fair. Also, when you have two players that should get a good amount of playing time up front, then it's easier to take a Judkins pick and hope that he explodes later on in the season. Also, this makes sense because if you see what I did in the eighth and ninth, is I end up with two of the rookies in Golden and in Egbuka. Uh, Usually, I think Egbuka goes before Golden, but I took Golden first. Reason I took him first was, and I don't even know if this is true or not, but I I thought they don't need a slot wide receiver. When I say they, Buffalo doesn't need a slot wide receiver, so I'll take Golden, and maybe Buffalo takes Golden with their first pick. Not likely, but maybe, and then we end up with their outside wide receiver in Golden. That being said, I've seen mocks where Igbuka goes to Buffalo as well. So who knows? I end up with both of them in this draft because of how things played out. Not bad that I got both of them. Kind of happy about that. And I think it makes sense here a little bit. And I got Jefferson, Flowers, Shakir, three hopefully safe, solid, great, and then solid players. Not anything fantastic. Don't really want Shakir a whole lot. He's my only time I drafted him, and he pairs with Allen. So I went up and took him a little before some other players just to secure that because there's not really, there's potentially not that much difference between some of these players. So get Shakir. Good thing I did that because there weren't many other Buffalo players that fell to me of the more desired ones at least. Um, I am now at four running backs through 10 when Mason gets to me here at 117. This is a Minnesota thing that correlates with Jefferson, so that makes sense. And then I took JJ McCarthy at 124, and this was a tough one here. It was basically, do I take someone that's closer to ADP, or do I take JJ McCarthy, or do I take Dalton Kincaid or Keon Coleman? Really, it was one of those three players. Or if I don't want to take someone that's just closer to ADP, I decided to pull JJ McCarthy up instead of Dalton Kincaid. I think the reason I did that was because I didn't have any other stacks available, and it was a two-person stack at this point in time because I had taken Mason with the pick earlier. Also, I thought it was probably more likely that Kincaid fell to me or Coleman fell to me as opposed to McCarthy. In the end, neither of them fell to me. Oh well, it is what it is. Let's see if that made sense though. Like if we look at tight end wise, they had two tight ends early, and they're the team closest to me, right? So I like looking at the team closest to me because if someone like a Kincaid is going to fall well past ADP, it always stinks when the team right before you take some because they see the ADP value, they just grab them. But most likely this team wouldn't do it. Obviously they might because they took Ertz anyways, but they probably wouldn't do it. This team had McBride, and so they don't need another tight end. This team had Bowers, so they don't need to take another tight end right away if they don't want to. This team had Ingram and just had Ingram, so they possibly could. But then there was also three other tight ends insulating me with Kincaid as well, with Kraft, Likely, and Loveland. And then Pitts as well. You could say Pitts is kind of isolating as well because he's around that same draft spot or so, maybe a little bit after, but some people like him more. This team had Andrews only. This team had Laporta and then took Likely and then took Kincaid. So he took his third one in Kincaid. That kind of hurts. Ouch. Then this team took Coleman. So I do think it was probably the right move just because this secures a better stack and like ensures a stack. I can stop at two QBs if I really want to with Allen, or I can get a third one maybe if the right thing falls to me, which it didn't in this case. I end up with White at 141. Why did I do that? I'm not sure why I did White here. I'm not sure why I did White on this one. It doesn't correlate. Oh, I got Bucky Irving. So if I can get White around, I think that's fair where he's going at ADP, which is, I might have even took him like a pick or two early, but I don't know what else to take here really with this pick. I could take like a Pitts or a Ferguson as my first tight end if I really wanted to at this point, seeing I missed out on Kincaid. That might have made sense. Um, but I went with White, and I do think it's interesting to grab multiple Tampa Bay running backs because I think they all could do something. And I've done it in a couple drafts, like get Bucky with their third one, Sean Sean something or other, right? Sean Tucker. I didn't, that's what I thought it was. Yeah, Sean Tucker or um, Bucky and White in this case, or White and Tucker. I've done all three of those, I think, at times. So I think those are interesting things to do. I don't know if they're the smartest, but I've done it. So I took White here, and then Allen. I think if this is the first time I took him, and if you're going to take him at some point in time, I think this is the time to take him, considering you have the two rookies here, so you need a little bit more security in Allen. Also, I think I did this way, and I didn't take more wide receivers because I was hoping that I could get Palmer to fall back to me, which he didn't. But I ended up with Ray Davis, which was another Buffalo player. But I really wanted Palmer, but I didn't want to grab him at 140. I wanted him to fall here at 165. So that's why I didn't go wide receiver here. But instead of just one, I could have gone maybe tight end running back instead. Who knows? If possible. I do end up taking three tight ends at the very end, and I think I like this. I think it's very little risk, and uh, it's not gonna. It's probably not a smash, but it's probably not going to hurt you, assuming you built out a good team the rest of the way. And with this, and then I got more to go with JJ McCarthy as well. So I do think this is a fine team here. If there's one thing I could do differently on this one, it might be the White pick, maybe, and get a tight end. Is there something else I could have done different? Actually, or I don't think I need the third rookie wide receiver here. Maybe a Curtis Samuel um, to pair with Allen makes sense here. I think that's what I should have done. Like a Curtis Samuel, he kind of seemed to come on towards the end of the season in the playoffs when he was starting to get a little healthy. Could someone like that help out this team? So that's, I think, what I should have done differently. Grab a Curtis Samuel here instead of Jalen Royals, and see if and maybe that would be a horrible idea. Who knows? But there you go. Overall, I think a pretty good team. 3693 or 2693. Here's another 2693 right here. So we'll compare with this one. And right away, you can see how much running back capital they have with the same number of running backs. Get a little concerned here. And then they actually took their fourth before I took my fourth. And so this should probably only be like a 5 running back room unless they waited till the very end to get the last two, which they didn't. They took Chubb and Smith. I don't really even understand why you'd want to get Chubb and Robinson with these three here. Robinson, I think at this price has nothing but probably downside. And then who knows what's going on with Chubb? He might not even play. And I don't know if there's really the upside there anymore in Chubb. Smith is fine, I guess, if you want to grab him in this build. But I think they overinvested in running back. I think I invested more properly in running back. And they only have 3 wide receivers through 7. And then they, got Robinson instead of another wide receiver. They waited until 10 to get Shaheed, and then they went back to back tight ends, and then get Higgins, Pierce, Cooper, Watson, Cooks. So this is kind of dangerous too, because I mean Cooper, I guess, should get a landing spot, but I've heard some people say that maybe he wouldn't. He's cooked. Watson, who knows if he'll play this year? So this is definitely the wrong team to put Watson I think, considering you I think you're just gonna need wide receiver points all season long. So you just need bodies all season long. And I don't know if Watson really has the upside when he comes back in his first year back from an ACL thing. And you don't have a whole lot of correlation with this other than an NFC North thing with the Bears. 3 tight ends in the middle, not bad. Although he probably could have, look at this right here. Goddard and Bateman right there. And So I would, if I was him, I probably don't take Goddard. I take Bateman just to kind of keep on building out my wide receiver room, and then find a place to get another tight end. Probably um, don't don't uh, take Chubb or Smith, and then grab another tight end with one of those picks or something like that. There you go. So you guys know where my exposures are at. Tell me what you like about it, what you don't like about it. And you saw a build where I have some of my higher exposed guys and a build where I have some of my lower exposed guys and what I do with it. I will see you on the next one. Peace.